Good evening. My name is Dr. Akers. Most of you know me. I do my version of chiropractic and body work and healing. I'm also a clinical nutritionist. And thank you for coming this evening. Thank you, Impacts, for giving me the space to do things that I really want to do, and this is what I really want to do. This is sort of like putting the clues together in healthcare and share with you things that I've found. Now, today's talk, I've done some hormone imbalance workshops, but this one is not going to repeat. And of course, every time I have a lecture, it's always the best one. It's the best version, so rest assured, again, the good stuff. So again, thank you for Impacts letting me do this. I use their products, so we'll get into that a little bit later. Tonight, you may have a handout that goes on, like Hormone Health. That page touches briefly on some of the outlines of the hormones, the names of the hormones, which is a good place to start tonight's lecture. We can actually shut those lights off now because it gets really, ooh, yeah. I feel it. Okay. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to sort of be clear about it. I'm going to pretend I'm the general public, and I'm guessing that most people will hear the word hormone and are going to be thinking, their mindset will go into my aunt, my mother, things like, they'll go into menopause type symptoms, you know, everything from you know, the hot flashes, hair loss, weight gain, mood alterations, things like that, that we've heard about in the media. And we say, oh my gosh, these are what hormone imbalances look like. And men would say, good thing I don't have to deal with that. And then women go, oh my gosh, look what I'm going to have to deal with. So this is not true. So this is my first misconception we're going to just really clear up. Because once we start as a professional, you're like, I'm a professional and I'm a clinical nutritionist, but the more we study chemistry, we realize this is not about gender and sex hormones and timing in life. This stuff is based on stress. Things that we sort of know about, but we're going to talk about it and might share with you some interesting things about this little guy. So, oh, excuse me. I get to use my pointer. So hormone health is not about gender. Hormone levels tell us how well our body is handling the stresses in our life. Pretty broad, right? What the heck does that mean, and who can make a sense out of that? Because nobody wants to. People say, well, what's stress? And they like to put it in a compartment and treat the little pieces of it. However, I'm going to say all the common symptoms we hear about, fatigue, digestive disorders, anxiety, chronic pain, depression, high blood pressure, memory loss, cholesterol, etc., 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 even back pain, can and often does reflect hormonal imbalance, and they're actually driven by stress. Now, it seemed like a monumental task starting this years ago, and I'm thinking, well, they're probably all connected. Do we have to separate them? Well, the medical mainstream wants to separate them. But what if we go right back to the beginning and say, well, it's a common root? If there's a common root to this imbalance, and it has to do with maybe stress handling, will that give us something, a better way to deal? Because, you know, how would you handle stress these days? You know, psychiatric med for the mind or the head, and stresses in your head, things like that. So we're obviously not going to go there because we know at this 2017 that stress management with pharmaceuticals don't work. So we know that. So we're not bashing on anybody. What we're trying to do is to take a deeper look, a rethink, and go back into some basic history to find out what might this mechanism of stress producing, stress that produces the symptoms that we carry. How are we doing so far? Everybody can hear me? Got enough perked interest? Yeah. Good. All right, so it brings to the interesting question is maybe my body is doing something wrong. How about that? Because if you sit with that for a second, I think everyone's mindset is supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. Who told us that there's supposed to be something wrong? Well, it's got to be wrong. This time I don't feel good here and my number's over here. So I realized that's probably where we want to go. But we're not going to go there. Yay.
Okay.
Okay, so some very simple backgrounds, like the key to hormones and the key to stress is what? The huge cortisol, the molecule that will run your day, right? So this is your, if anybody has any questions about these little things that I'm talking about, we can keep everybody on speed. You can ask me. I don't mind being interrupted. I'll fake it the best I can. So this is the key, the basics. This is the circadian rhythm, right? So this is how you wake up, have a day, and have a night. We're all driven by the sun. That guy, the one that was just eclipsed. So that guy runs every biochemical pathway on this planet, that single sun, and that's the one that's going to dictate what cortisol is doing. So cortisol is your life hormone. It wakes you up in the morning. Where are we? So see, it starts to peak right about there, as you know, but it has a peak at 6 a.m. That's morning. So when cortisol is really high like that, you can't help but wide awake, because it fires everything. So all the metabolism, all the sugar, all the metabolic processes need for you to be awake is firing with the major player, cortisol. Right. And so that peaks at 6 and it drops down in the afternoon, and by the time like it drops like 1 or 2 in the morning, it's really low. Well, that makes sense because the sun's not up. We want to be in bed. So that's how it does it. The melatonin reverses this. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, rises and peaks through in here to give you sleep, right? So it's a combination of chemicals and do that. Very beautiful, but it's all governed by the sun. Next slide. So here's a reversal where there's the normal curve. It comes up in the morning and down at night. Well, this irregular is reversing. And so I'm going to start there, even though we're not going to talk much about chemistry and complicated things like that I can't remember. We're going to get some general ideas of what should be happening, what isn't happening. And if you watch cortisol, you'll get the whole picture, because it's the giant that's going to move your whole health. So when cortisol is correct, your timing is perfect, all the metabolic processes are going on, and you sleep when you're supposed to. When you can't sleep at night and you have a reversal, or circadian rhythm reversal, that means that curve of cortisol is wrong. You're on the right planet, you just have the wrong cycle. And it only happens from stress, and we'll get into that. Okay. So we're understanding this body. It says, okay, so he says, okay, I said it, I just assumed my body was pretty good at keeping me balanced, right? And if I just did what I was supposed to do, I'll be okay. I mean, we're making smarter food choices and exercise when we can. We are healthier than ever and living longer, right? Right, so no, he is, you know who. What we're going to do is we're going to look at how we have done this stress thing, how that cortisol is doing its job, and it always comes down to some familiar things we're going to touch on and some unfamiliar things, and this is the evolution of human stress. I have found that we're doing everything exactly correct according to our design, and this is my how and why. So the first thing we do is the basics, and no one ever is going to, even so some of my ideas are a little bit out there, no one's going to challenge this guy. Our first position is to survive, which means don't get eaten, right?
Oh.
Simple stuff. Everybody's on board. Now, the simple truth everyone knows is that life can be challenging, and the less evolved we were, the more challenging it was. Being able to move defines safety. Oh, interesting. You mean move? We mean move. You mean physically moving. Here, I like this. The validating, helpful understanding we can learn from the animal kingdom is that movement is the key to health. Okay, it's got to get more complicated than that, because we're not animals. We're supposed to be smarter. Okay, so this is an overview of the way mammals, our very close cousins, every mammal, including all the pets, have the same physiology. And this is how they react to stress. So they are very fight or flight oriented, right? So how mammals respond to stress. First one is move. Move, fight or flight, defend yourself or run away, or if you can't fight or can't move, you don't move. So people say fight or flight. People think there's a problem with fight or flight. Fight or flight is not a problem. I'm going to say it again. Fight or flight is not a problem. We don't have a problem with fight or flight. Why? Because fighting is moving and flight, running, is moving. You're moving. If you don't move, this is a different scenario. So mammals have exactly two possibilities. They can move or you don't move. This don't move is stay very still. So as not to be found by the tiger and then run away when he's gone. They do that, and I'll show you. Why? This is important. Why? Because mammals, they're survival oriented. They're going to remember this event, and if the situation ever happens again, repeat what you did today. Fortunately, animals are very present. They're very present beasts, and I'll show you why later. Therefore, they can get a good night's sleep and let the stressful day go. That's the way animals do it. Let's see us. Are we next? Well, so there's, oh yeah, here's the move, right? Oh. You got to do something. Whoa. You just got to do something, or you don't move. That's all you got to do. Now, and then the cool thing about the mammals, they can do this. What's that? That's a predator and a prey.
That's crazy. Wow.
Why is that possible? See, on the nature shows they say, well, there's a truce at the water hole. That's nonsense.
The lion isn't hungry.
Lion isn't hungry?
Yeah, he's hungry.
True, because when he's hungry, he's in that mode. But what I'm going to tell you is this guy here, this prey, cannot imagine or remember to fear the lion.
Oh. The lion's not there.
He does not plan to avoid lions because they ate me, chased me yesterday. They live very present. So that's real. I've seen it before. I think it's absolutely amazing. It really tells us about what the heck is what are we doing? So then I skip to, that's our brain. And you guys may have seen this before. So it's 3 parts. You get the primitive, less primitive, and the so modern us sitting on top. But it's three, but they all act as one. They're all interconnected. To give you some basic idea that I find fascinating, here's the numbers. This guy here, the reptilian, is 400 million old. This limbic system is the mammalian. It's the mammals, that's 200 million. And we are up top at most 3. Evolutionary stage, 3 million. What the heck? We share 2/3 of that brain with these guys. I wonder what influence, what effect that has done over time. Let's see. This is what humans do for stress, or in response to stress, right? So same thing, they're going to move, they're going to defend yourself or run away. If you can't get out, and if you can. But you don't move, just like, and run away. You don't move, or you do freeze. What the heck is that? Who's heard of freeze before? In psychology, we use that. We use freeze to define, like, PTSD. Wow, we have a third choice. We absolutely do, and that's what makes us extremely unique, and we need to go, wait a minute, we're so similar but not exactly the same. How can we learn about how we respond to stress? How can we benefit from this? So freeze is uniquely created in humans in response to continual stress in the past, in the present, and the future. What do I mean by real or imagined? Real or imagined is the whole key. Humans live in an imaginary world. This is imaginary. Why? Because what I had for breakfast is my imagination. What's in front of me is this. And animals are right here, right now. They don't know, remember, or care what breakfast was. So anything in the future, anything in the past is unavailable to mammals. They don't have a prefrontal cortex, have no ability to have abstract thinking or creativity. Lucky them. So our frontal cortex contains our ability to imagine, good or bad. This underappreciated consequence of being human is underlying all chronic illnesses. Well, that's a bold statement. Okay, so this is I love these online. You can get pictures, great. But it's just a regular guy who may be thinking. It's supposed to be, I pulled up a stressed individual, right? It's like creativity has a price. Well, because we can imagine, we don't forget old injuries, which probably compels us to fix them. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Freeze state is a whole body response to an imagined threat is determined to be, that it has been determined to be ongoing and inescapable. It's as if you're placing yourself on house arrest. Able to function, but within the limits of injury memory and working at dreaming up a solution. What a concept. Maybe everything that we've ever experienced that stressed us has actually been recorded and we keep it because I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm really familiar with that. Really familiar. We don't do anything about it. I'm working on it. Because we can. Why do we do what we do? The animals cannot. Because we have the architecture. We have the hardwiring to remember, perseverate, worry, imagine, stress. I hate that color. Oh, this one reminds me of my mother, that dress. It's all over. And what does it do? It hammers our adrenals. It hammers our stress response. Really? Injury memory is everywhere. I put this one in for me. For what I work with is I work with trauma memory in the body without just talking about it. I say if this is stiff and it hurts and you don't want to, there's an injury involved here. This is a recorded pattern that you're not dealing with, but it hurts. It has to be in the body. How else can the body shape itself, right? That was a plug from me. Here's the stress bit. So we were going to get in a little detail so you can brag about knowing what the amygdala is and the hippocampus. Who knows amygdala and hippocampus? Those are only the two important things that you're going to take from tonight. They're important because they're really a big deal. The amygdala is, and these are all primary parts. They're not advanced brains. These are primitive brains parts. The hippocampus is like, well, I'll show you. It's like the keyboard. It's the part of the brain that will, if you're at a library, it's the librarian. You ask, where is bluebirds or swallows? I'm doing a report on it. She will look and go, it's over there. So she's able to allocate, remember, recall memories to fit whatever you need. So it's a really important exchange. That's the hippocampus. Shaped because if it's a seahorse. Yeah, right? See, it's a seahorse shape. Okay, the amygdala is your emergency center. That's the one saying, and they frighten you. It scares itself. A great example that I was taught was this one. So if you're out hiking, Justin hikes. So it's as if Justin is out hiking up in the middle of absolutely nowhere in some mountains, and he sees this little cord here lying on the ground, but maybe it's a piece of whatever. That is a snake, right? He jumps. So your amygdala will say, stop! He goes up in full-on panic until that assessment is correlated with the hippocampus. The hippocampus will say, oh, no. That's a rope. That's a piece of rope. And then it comes down. See, so this guy is emergency. This guy is the common sense. It says calm down, relax. That's what the hippocampus is for, and that's what the amygdala is for. It's a threat assessment or threat alarm. This guy here says, no, if I recall, that's a piece of rope. I picked it up at Home Depot. I dropped it. Sorry, dude. Right? Scared the living crap out of me. That's what these guys are. The reason I bring it up, things like this. Dementia, things like that. Is this hormonal? Of course it's hormonal. Why? It's involved with stress. Continual bursts of cortisol to the brain specifically damage amygdala and hippocampus. It shrinks these guys. It shrinks the hippocampus. High levels of cortisol destroys your brain. So when you hear things like, oh, my grandmother, my dad, and you had dementia, everything you got to name to me about mental disorder, dementia related, and Parkinson's, and everything all relates to what has that brain been feeling all the time. And it's always going to come down to some kind of stress hormone, probably cortisol, that's hammering it. And then you have the brain becomes cortisol insulin resistant. So the new disease is type 3 diabetes. Can't process glucose. Too much cortisol, because cortisol is a glucocorticoid. It's going to release sugar. And so, yes, all these things can contribute. Chronic stress means we lose our minds. Wow, I thought it was age. It's nothing to do with age. It has to do with what kind of experience you're having or continuing to have that makes our body feel a certain way. And the chemistry is going to come from how you react, of course, right? It's like, oh, I had too much cortisol today. No, it was you thinking and feeling and respond. Yeah. We'll get how to fix this stuff. One pill, it's all over.
Yeah.
That was a joke. That's that's the keyboard. It gets all broken. It's like, and that's where the forgetfulness comes in. Under stress, like you can't figure out what was his name? What was it? We all experience. I experience this. Absolutely. Then when I relax, that's the same. Chip. Right. Thanks. Now I know who I am. So that happens every day. Right? That's PTSD. That's the golf.
Yeah.
That's for real. This freeze state is technically a flattened hormonal response. The flattened response is sort of interesting to me. Just know that wouldn't everything that has to do with hormones be in cycles and moving? It's true, it is. But when you see flat states and any levels, it's like, oh, it got flattened. That means it's not moving. So cortisol goes flat, it's low. Oh, my cortisol feedback is, it goes low. It's not moving. If you've got no cortisol response, it's like, oh, it's all depleted. You are in trouble. It's sort of like heart rhythms, right? If you have a flat heart, you're in trouble. My favorite test is the HRV. It's a heart rate variability. That's a great machine because what it does, it measures how much variability your heartbeat has. It's supposed to be all over the place. It's supposed to have all kinds of variation because it's responding to all the body chemistry as your body is doing its thing. So variability is what you want. You want variability in your hormones, variability in all the rhythms. Very common consequence of memory of acute trauma and historical microtrauma, physical or emotional, is the underlying cause of hormonal imbalance. So we just set it out there right now, and then we're going to move to what can we do about it. Well, we're going to go back a little bit, and this is freeze state's actually occurring daily to more or less for everyone. What do you think about that statement? That this freeze state is occurring to everybody, more or less. The ones who have a lot of it, they're zombies. The ones who are dealing with it is going to sit up here and lecture to you. Who hasn't had trauma in their life? That is in there. That you can feel it, you can see it. It'll show up in your blood test, it'll show up in your lifestyle. Wow. Our creative prefrontal cortex guarantees it. Medically, it's known in many names. One is generalized anxiety disorder. I consider GAD normal for our modern lifestyle. That's sort of what I just said.
GAD again?
GAD is generalized anxiety disorder.
Oh, okay.
That general.
Right.
Who doesn't have it, right?
It's like, wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, who's comfortable? As opposed to if you, perhaps, I'm just guessing right off the top of my head, if you went to a third world country with a very simple lifestyle, who have no cell phones, and they know exactly their job to do in this village, and they go here, they're chill. They know exactly what their problems are or challenges are, and knows what is not. Very clearly defined roles and actions of their life. Very stable. They know where God is. They know, oh, solid. They may have, maybe somebody's fighting them, but they know if you beat them, you live. You needed to die anyway. Not like this place. We're complicated. We've got times. You got this and agendas. Oh, I'm going to read this guy because I wrote this and I just thought it was kind of funny. I think I was a writer or something. So I can do it from here. Anyway, this is me saying about the modern threats, right? The modern threats are not like a tiger's going to eat you. No, it's job insecurity, mortgage payments, global warming, President Nameless. They're real. And it makes our body jump into action, right? So non-physical stresses like I don't know if I can pay my rent. And a job, I should be getting money here, and all those typical finance things are actually triggers to our body as if it was a bear. Now, I'll read this. These modern world threats are not life-threatening emergency. However, our mammal body doesn't understand the difference, and the usual adrenaline and cortisol will be secreted into your bloodstream to make sure you have plenty of glucose for fighting and running. More oxygen will be ushered to your brain to sharpen your senses to combat effectively. Your heart rate will elevate, keeping up with your kung fu. Your bones will of course, donate any amounts of calcium from muscles to use. Your digestion will cease not to bother you with the hunger in the middle of a battle. You won't notice the pretty girls as you head toward the battlefield, and your bladder will empty to ensure less weight to carry you to victory. That's just a sequence of what happens with cortisol rising. This is a stress response, and that happens. You could go to the teller of the bank and say, well, you don't have enough in your, and that happens. You can't prevent it. This is part of that body that we're in. It's a mammal body with mostly a mammal brain. That stuff's going to happen. But your top brain is going to say, well, nah, not really. And you would think it all prepares this way, but then it goes, oops, no real movement. You don't actually run. There's no battle. But you just prepared for it. If you guys aren't aware of it, I'm telling you, every doctor knows this scenario is what happens to everybody. And everybody goes to your MD, he knows everyone is gearing and preparing for battle survival, and they never battle, and that way you've got this test is out of line, your calcium is low, and your cortisol is too high, your blood pressure is, and your cholesterol. He doesn't tell you, he knows this. What is he going to do? Give you a relax, a Prozac? Yeah, see, it's just not right. He knows this stuff. With all this, too often scenario freeze state will develop. Okay, so we review a little bit. Original cause of hormonal imbalance is chronic stress adaptation, perfect for short term. You might just think that just movement would be enough, a solution to fix the house. We just move. How many think that movement is going to fix the stresses? Like, okay, if you're going to prepare for a battle, might as well hit something. Well, the problem with that is if you go to the gym, you can see a lot of people who have tried it, or who want to do a workout and fail. I do it back out. I hated it. I injured myself. Exercise is bad. Movement is terrible. I hurt myself. I hurt my neck. I hurt my back. Right? Remember that slide of the gal doing yoga? That stiffness relates to her historical stress locked in her bodies, preventing her from doing those burpees that she could do in high school. She can't do anymore. She's way too twisted and is not the same body. Her body has changed multiple times over the years, not giving her the freedom to do, oh, I could do burpees. I was the king of that in high school. So, nope. If you say just move, because you're stressed, you're preparing for battle, you want to fight something, just fight something. Go 9 rounds type of thing, right? So I say no. A command from your prefrontal cortex of just move will be like driving with a foot on the gas and a foot on the brake. I love this slide. That can't be good. Because that's what we do. If you think about it, we're trying to accelerate and move in our life. And our brake is saying, but I can't because of this, I can't because of that, I can't because of that. But keep going. You get internal tension. It fights itself. It's like, what's wrong with you? Just work harder. You know, push harder. It's like, what the heck? No. Okay, so does everybody see why I say, hey, the way to solve your health is to remove things, not to add things. Don't put on more weights on workout. Don't run harder. Don't add the best vitamin nutrients to make you super, super, super. No boosting, no steroids. Why? Because that's not the problem. It's like you've got drag in your system. You've got things holding you back. So in a way, the problem is you might see that our ill health is actually a consequence of overactive stress response. The consequence is seen in your body as congestion, right? Why? Because just like we go back to, I'll just tell you, the scenario when you go into battle, the guy has to your body prioritizes battle over everything else. And it's not going to do what? House cleaning, maintenance. So the people who are stressed for battle all the time, they put on their battle gear. And so you don't do liver function, doesn't clear it out. Kidney function drops down. Your breathing drops down. You don't move. You don't have organ function at areas that are not critical for combat. And for gosh sakes, why do we get osteoporosis? This is a good example. So bone thinning, where's bone thinning come from? What's the calcium used for? The calcium is used for the muscles to contract. Because you're going to fight, right? Oh, I didn't fight today. Where does it go after that? Urine. So we are peeing out all the valuable calcium that your body needs to go fight with because you don't fight. You just think you are. And the stress just pushes all the calcium storage out of the bones. You think it'd be, what are you, crazy body? No, the body is instinctive. If he feels it has to fight, it will. And therefore, all that calcium that is in storage is going to go to, I'm going to protect myself, so I want to have all that muscle contraction. Because that's what a battle's for. That's what a combat's for. So you're going to deplete so many parts of your body, especially in the ones that are the parts of the body that are for detoxification. And so that's why I say the first step is detoxification, because your body right now is just dragging. You can't say, hey, start moving. No, let me start changing all the collection, the detoxification, the house cleaning, maintenance that was never done. So you clean your slate first. So the first one here is detoxification, and then you support the hormones because they're all out of whack. They're all geared for combat. And so, and then the last thing I say is we play. Because there's a whole other dimension to stress, isn't there? How you feel about yourself. Well, I'm doing this because I have to. Do something you enjoy. It's powerful.
Hey, real quick,
Yes.
number 2, hormone support, where you're saying to support that.
Yes.
What about, the thing is it could have been in combat too. That's why. When you were saying hormone support a minute ago,
Yep.
when you were highlighting
Yep.
that, I thought it's not just necessarily supporting it, it's because it could have been in combat ongoing. As to how it got that way to begin with.
Oh, you mean combat first. So you can have combat stress, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying because that's how you got there, is just being in combat, because you're fighting the whole time, different stresses in a big way.
Yes,
Right.
that guy. Mm-hmm. That's real.
Yeah.
That's, yes. And
I forgot the word you used, but I thought I wanted to add on. It's
Yes.
not just where it's at, it could be where it's been in combat, not just where it's been stable.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So these guys experiencing that atmosphere with the continual stress, of course, they're drained of all they're constantly pushing all their fight responses to go. And sometimes they get to fight and sometimes they don't. But the continual, constant stress, not only in that field, but when they come back and sit here in a locked apartment in the middle of a city, they're still playing it over. Why? Because they don't have a mammal body, they have a mammal plus. It's a supersized one where it's able to, your brain, who the director at the top is saying, hey, I remember that. I didn't like that. Remember that. And it just bugs itself. So the brain going back and forth, having this dialogue at the very top. Well, what about here? What about here? I should have done that. Should. And at the same time, it's directing emotional responses in the body. You almost have no way out. But I'll show you, you do. Oop, no. Sorry. There you go. How you doing?
That was a great picture too.
I know.
On the break. Celebrated for me.
Okay. Does anybody believe that we have embedded the solution out of the same problem? We agree this is, yes. So here's the most interesting thing. I'm not sure I put the slide in, but anyway, I'll tell you about it anyway. All those crazy researchers who just play with the brain, which is great, and I sort of watch what they're doing all the time. I've been teaching meditation and doing it for years, and I know it's really helped me. But what they now know is there's a meditation circuit in the prefrontal cortex. So in the executive brain, the one that's causing all this problem about drudging, I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda, no, what, yeah, what. That guy with that conversation on top also has a solution. And it is a meditation. It allows you to meditate. Well, what the heck is that, Dr. A? This circuit allows you, in fact, we can all do it. It's really simple, right? And you guys probably already have, but I'll tell you anyway. So I want you guys to all close your eyes. And I don't close my eyes when I meditate. I'm just sort of in the space, right? But you guys will close your eyes because it sounds familiar. So we've closed your eyes. All right, so I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to relax. I want you to, oh, that's right. See me. See, Dr. A is spewing stuff and watching colorful slides. See me without looking at me, right? Now, look in your mind, whatever that is, to the ceiling. Oh, there's some vents. Maybe that's up there, right? So you're imagining it. Now I want you to look down from the ceiling to you. See yourself sitting in this class from a point of view of the ceiling. We all good? Can we do that? Who's got it? Everybody got it? Okay, you are human beings. Animals cannot ever do that. Now come on back. So being able to be self-aware, being able to see yourself is the way you break the cycle. And you have to practice it all the time. Because if you do not step out and observe the self, you will stay in a continual cycle following these programmed, crazy, instinctive moves, driving, listening to that head go, you must do this, you must do that, and you won't notice. Do people understand? Like, you don't even notice who you are. You do things so automatically, right? That pattern, that prefrontal cortex in the very front here allows you to self-observe. And that's why I believe it was put in there, because this is a very dangerous young guy up here. It runs the whole show. He's got a very loud voice, but at the same time, the solution came with it. And the solution is you have to detach. You have to sort of practice self-awareness just by as simply as being your own observer, your own witness. And how long do you do that? How about make this a permanent design? Because perception is reality. What I mean by this, remember how I said all the experiences of stress that we have, your modern brain keeps them to learn from? So get this. If you have trauma in your history that you know about, trust me, that front brain is working at using it constantly to do what? It's using it to interpret your world, looking for patterns. The key to the modern brain, the human brain, is its ability to pattern recognize, a recognition of pattern. You are walking around with your emotional history here, and you see worlds from there. So everything you're looking at it is coming from your view, from your historical record of emotional stresses, trying to interpret through that, because that's why it does it. And that's why I say, maybe we're trying to resolve ourselves. Maybe we're trying to fix things. Maybe we're trying to really learn about why and happened, and this whole journey that is hardwired into our physiology, because this is it. We rose-colored glasses. That's what you see. Solutions that are easy. No surprise there, coming from me. That's a foam roller. All I'm going to say about that is use it. Maybe. And then play. Nutritionally, I'm a clinical nutritionist. You ask my wife, I am insane with supplements. I am absolutely insane. But I insist, I got to take them. Because all those things have all those resonance, all those frequencies, all that nutrients that help my body do what I really would like to do, right? So first at the top here, nutritionally, the ENA sciences through here is they have the whole deal. You can use the creams, the transdermal, they immediately, they do your tests, and they're awesome. The old-fashioned way, of course, is, this is what I've found. First one up the list is, guess what? Heavy metal detoxification. What the heck? I think this world has so much metal-bound chemicals in the world. Everything from our environment, everything from our food, everything from pesticides, everything you won't even notice. It's not going to be advertised. But when you do detoxes, I suggest you also use a heavy metal cleanser at the same time. I use Endocrine every day. For this, I use the chlorella and Endocrine and a zeolite. This is a clay. And again, to pull out metallic junk to our body, our nervous system that it can't handle. It's like, what the heck is this? So it really, really messes things up. So when you detox, which I highly recommend, you want to focus it. So there's going to be, it's focused toward liver, but you want to say, I also want to put some nutrients in there that are heavy metal binders. And the chlorella is a really simple, easy one to do. And you support the adrenals. I love this guy, MPX 100. That thing will really downregulate, modify cortisol. Unbelievable, because it has to do with, they say it's for sugar, but that's what cortisol is. Really, it's a sugar releaser. So when you're up, that will bring you down. The branched chain amino acids and the delta E, clarity of mind, and the theanine, it's just, hey, I can think straight. So yeah, you support the adrenals, you support testosterone levels, because what happens when our body is chronically stressed, you have overload cortisol to the point where it all goes flat. But it's cortisol you got to watch when we're stressed like this. And the other one is this guy. Testosterone goes flat on both genders. You got to, because they're opposing actually, right? Cortisol and testosterone, they're that evil twin. They're opposites. So when you're normalizing and reducing the cortisol, you want to build the testosterones. And the testosterones, they have great supports out there. Very easy formulas. It's not like you're taking drugs or hormones. And that's, again, all of this is supported because they have a very nice program that catches it all. And then I also find if you're not supporting the thyroid with some form of kelp combination, you're missing it. Again, the word on the thyroid is that's like your PG&E. Everything powers through that thyroid. And so it's not like you want thyroxine, you want all the nutrients to support it, because I don't find that the hormone's deficient. It's that it has no support. If the thyroid gland is your go-to battle strength, all the functional energy of movement comes through thyroid, why do you think it's low? Because you're in battle all the time. The chronically stressed person, the people in freeze, are preparing for battle. And they're exhausted. And so you don't want to think thyroid by giving it a thyroid hormone. You support the thyroid with some thyroid support nutrients, but you got to do all these guys because the thyroid doesn't act alone. No one does. Okay, I am exhausted and, well, not really. I'm done. Thank you very much. And we can take questions. What do you think?
Good.
Or we're all good. We have a question out here.
I have a question about the freeze.
Yeah, freeze state.
Yes. I call that hypo. It's it's called hypo. It's my hypo. It's like a really low state of arousal that I can.
Yeah.
I have that as like I go into my safety zone.
Right.
Which is like my optimal state of arousal.
Right.
But then when I get into a situation where I don't know how to deal with the situation,
Yeah.
I sort of either freeze,
Right.
or I go into a hyper state of arousal where I get stuck. But when I go to my low state of arousal, I don't normally get stuck. I'm able to come out of it. But when I go into my high state of arousal, my high stress, I can't come out of it. And then it's like it literally takes a whole night's sleep.
Yeah, you kick it. You kick the adrenals even further into this super arousal.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So you had made mention that if we just keep trying, you said if we keep going forward, take our foot off the brake, how would you suggest to take our foot off the brake?
Good question. All righty. Dr. A gets to back up. Okay, so the way you...
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes. Okay. The question was, in this lecture about how our body's sort of exhausting ourselves, it's sort of like we have a foot on the accelerator in this world because we want to push harder, we want things we want, do. Not being aware of how much drag is in our system from all the chronic accumulation of trauma patterns that are locked in our memory body, and we say, oh, forget you, that happened 20 years ago, I'm going to run this marathon, and we exhaust ourselves, we break ourselves, and we don't think of, I'm not over this, yeah, you're not over this. So yeah, the first thing you want to do is take the foot off the brake. The way you foot off the brake, take the foot off the brake is this. I would say here. Actually, it's all of these at the same time. It's not like 1, 2, 3. I would say if there's the detoxification, you got to pull everything out. So on a chemical level, you are doing a biochemical detox. Right? But at the same time, you are supporting the blown and exhausted organs. And at the same time, you're doing some kind of detachment, like we talked about the meditation. And really, what I'm not telling you is, I want you to...
I was just going to say, that's what I was...
Because so many times, I work with lots of folks, but the common thing is there's overstress going on. So oftentimes, if you've done all the chemistry and all the talk and all the expressions, what about your frame that has locked in cell memory a shape, a posture relating to X, Y, and Z trauma? Just like when we work with PTSD folks, I do body work. Because no one actually is comfortable. It's like, well, why would I try to hurt? Why do I push on this person? But if you know how the body works, you do have to break memory out of them. And since the fascial body is so in tune with what happened, it's like your body brain, if you know where to release, you can actually start breaking those patterns and peeling away those layers that get you to, hey, you know what? I've got some body work. That detox seems to be working. It's a combination of the chemistry, the physical releasing, the breathing, and you know what? I've got my meditation on board. So I'm going to say it's those three things. So it's that detox, that meditation, and the release work. That takes the foot off the brake,
Okay.
which is really the start anyway.
Right. It's a good foundation.
Yes. Because there's almost like no magic bullet to take. It's really foundational. Let's do the foundation, then along the way you'll say, well, I like this cool thing, I like this cool thing. But you never get to some fun things that work because your system is so congested. That kind of idea. So right? Alrighty. Hey, this has been fun. You know, obviously, in my practice, I don't get this manic. I'm busy, like, you know, doing release work, which is really important. But behind me is I want to get some of this understanding so I can impart it and start some release work and some training and some nutritional things that we can all share. Because I'm telling you, we're all in this together. We all have very similar patterns. We're only human beings here. We remember everything. And at the same time, the plus side is that the plus side of this cool creative brain is that we can imagine and create anything. So it's limited. It's an unlimited potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.